I say this because it's the truth. Ted Cruz and the people running him are awful, horrible people. I think Ted Cruz is very smart, very eloquent, but don't they say the last psychopaths are? The things he's doing, the things he's saying are so deceptive. If you go to my Twitter from 2 days ago, I have a screenshot of the Drudge Report where it says election canceled, no primary, no voters needed. That is such an over-the-top bombshell event in Colorado and now other states that the Republicans are announcing aren't going to have elections in the primary. I mean, that's what happened. Fury as Colorado has no primary or caucuses. Cruz celebrates voterless victory. Cruz came out, there's 2 different clips, and made fun of everybody and said, silly people, this is democracy. I'm going to play the clip. And he then came out and said that Matt Drudge is an attack site for Donald Trump and that basically is commanded around by Roger Stone. Those two don't even talk to each other. No, when Matt Drudge sees the Republicans say they're going to take delegates away from the winner and then just cancel elections, it's a big deal. And they can sit up there with their arrogance like they're a corrupt homeowners association or something, announcing that they own your house because you had a bottle cap in your yard or something. These are people who are delusional and think because they, quote, make the rules, that they can make the rules that they're permanent rulers of the country who appoint who can run for president. If the 2 parties appoint who can run for president, then you have a 2-party dictatorship. That's why you suddenly see Obama on Fox News for the first time in 8 years. That's why you see the merger. Fox News announcing a few months ago they're going to be nice to Hillary now. This is the 2 parties merging to take down populist movements in America and complete their takeover. Now, a few months ago, back when Drudge was saying nice things and linking to nice things that Ted Cruz was doing, Cruz came out and said that Drudge had killed the mainstream media and that he was the future and that he was so wonderful. I've got the clip. We're going to play it. But that's because Cruz wasn't doing bad things then and hadn't revealed himself. That was right before he robbed Carson in Iowa. That was right before all the other dirty tricks. That was before Jeb Bush endorsed him. That was before in Louisiana and Tennessee and all these other states, Trump wins and they take the delegates and say, well, we're allowed to because we made super delegates. We voted for this 40 years ago, but we didn't implement it till now. Well, maybe they'll just vote at the RNC to merge with the Democrats and then they'll just vote on who the president is because that's what this is one step away from, is a pure Central Committee / Politburo. He praised the Drudge Report for, quote, taking the GOP message directly to the people. Almost without exception, professionalism, journalists are partisan liberal Democrats. And he said more. We've got more clips. He says they've got the mainstream media, we've got Drudge. For 8, 9 months, Roger Stone's been warning of the big steal, the plan to steal the delegates. Now Trump sees that's happening and is getting the right people in there. And as Politico and the New York Times recognize that Roger Stone and his expert cohorts are trying to save our republic in the popular vote, they are turning incredible vitriol from Meet the Press to CNN against Stone. And we play these clips Friday. We played them yesterday. There's 5 or 6 of them. I'm not going to play them again today, where they play clips of him on the show where he says, no violence. We need to go to the delegations, though, that are public at the hotels and speak to them and say, please, go with what you pledged to do. And there on screen is, of course, Mr. Stone, 45-year veteran of campaigns with Paul Manafort and others. We'll put that back on screen for TV viewers. If you're a radio listener, InfoWars.com/show to find the feeds so you can see a whole nother dimension of this broadcast. Now, And also, he's there with Lee Atwater in that photo. They were there when they tried to steal it from Reagan and helped stop it then. Manafort and Stone were the head guys that did it. So they're back. And whether you love Trump, hate Trump, or in the middle, they're scared of him because he doesn't want unfair trade deals. He doesn't want globalism. He doesn't want open borders. So they're running fake headlines in the Boston Globe. They're lying. And they're saying that Roger Stone wants violence. And on a whole bunch of platforms, including the Washington Post, they've had Rick Tyler and others coming out and saying we should look at indicting, when he arrives in Cleveland, Ohio, Roger Stone. So they're not just going to steal elections and cancel elections in Colorado and other states. They're now talking about arresting him. We'll put it back on screen, so I want to read this to radio listeners. Could Donald Trump's surrogate Roger Stone be charged with menacing GOP convention delegates? You go to the red state sites and others, they're calling for his arrest and misrepresenting what he said on this show and others. And then it goes further. This isn't about Roger Stone. It's about someone out there who was the head of the campaign, who accurately warned Trump about what was going to happen. It has happened. Whose influence has now gone from strong to center stage with he and his business partner to save voting in this country. They're stealing from Bernie Sanders. He wins in Wyoming. He wins in New Hampshire. They take it. When he says he's going to go to his own delegates and try to get them to be honorable, the news says he's stealing it. So if Bernie Sanders goes to his sworn delegates and tries to get them to do the right thing, he's stealing. That's in the New York Times today. If Roger Stone says he's going to go to delegates sworn to their voters to Trump, being stolen from Louisiana to Tennessee, even when Trump wins and they have the election, they steal it after. That's criminal. That's intimidation. Ladies and gentlemen, once you go over the edge of canceling elections and installing puppets, the next stage is arresting people. You go over an edge. Now, we're going to make big announcements here. He's with us for the rest of the hour. Roger Stone has been, deep on the inside now of what's happening, battling for these delegates. He's going to give you the absolute, not 5-minute, blurb on CNN where he's banned, MSNBC where he's banned. He's now not really on Fox anymore. The Washington Post asked, why is he banned? He's one of the most articulate, accurate people. Even they understand. Because we're seeing political warfare this country's never seen since Lincoln, quite frankly, in my view. And we have a new level we're going to cover it as well. So a lot of stations just joined us in the second hour. Ted Cruz has come out and said Drudge is an attack dog run by Roger Stone and Donald Trump. And I won Colorado, and I won the democracy there. I won the votes. I have the clips coming up. Those are quotes. And Roger Stone and Drudge lied and said I didn't win. That is the new level of spin. They canceled the election, had the superdelegates ignore the delegates, pledge it all, 34 to him, and they're spinning it like Drudge is a liar. And then it gets worse. Phyllis Schlafly, the oldest living true patriot conservative of this country, been coming on my show 20 years. She had them try to take over her bank account and her whole organization, Eagle Forum, that gets true patriots elected, and shut her down. And it was reportedly a bunch of Cruz operatives, including her own daughter. But the bank wouldn't go along with it, and now reportedly there's criminal investigations. Folks, this is a new level. We've never seen theft like this of an election. Roger Stone joins us to announce a new website, a new move. He announced 2 weeks ago here first that he was going to lead and ask for my support. He has it. He has your support, obviously. And everybody else who stands for elections. There are people in my office who didn't support Trump. After this happened, they bought Trump hats and are now wearing them. Everyone basically is now for Trump in the office because they understand, folks, he is a figurehead for liberty and against globalism. And this man's life is in danger. We should pray for him. I am so honored to be associated with Matt Drudge, with Roger Stone, with Donald Trump. Real patriots. This is the attempted takeover of America you're witnessing. That's not hype. When they're taking over grassroots organizations that have been around 50 years, covertly, Cruz, when they're canceling elections and then saying he won the popular vote, we have the clips, it is a new level. So big announcements, big inside baseball with one of the top generals in the Trump campaign, outside the campaign, which the enemies figured out is central to the campaign, is now attacking him more than they're almost attacking Trump. And that's because they want to take him out, folks. Well, you're about to get to hear him for the next 45 minutes. Roger Stone, that's my intro. I know you've got big website, a big move you're about to announce. This is just epic. I'm on the edge of my seat. I've never been more excited to be on air.
Well, Alex, it is. I'm wearing this hat as a homage to Matt Drudge, because he's a guy who really did wreck the internet. He's broken into, as a pioneer, becoming a mass communicator who wasn't owned by a multinational corporation. And the idea that anyone controls Matt Drudge is offensive. He does a public service by picking up some of the best alternative and conservative media out there and spreading it to the masses.
And by the way, for folks that don't know, Drudge, you're absolutely right. The way to not get something on Drudge is to tell him what to do.
Not only that, but I would be honored if he posted everything of mine he ever sees, but I'm not that privileged. So Ted Cruz, you know, he has a problem with the First Amendment, quite obviously, and this wild punch at either me or Matt Drudge is senseless. Look, there was a media uproar last week when I suggested that Trump supporters visit the hotels of delegates. Let me be a little more specific. From the beginning, the problem here has been one of Trojan delegates, Trojan horse delegates. These Trojan horse delegates are very specifically holding seats in delegate positions who are elected to Donald Trump but not loyal to Trump. The party machines are seeking to insert these hacks, these loyalists, into delegations, which gives them a majority on the question of rules, credentials, and platform, all of which must come before the first ballot for president. So even if Donald Trump has 1,237 votes, which under the capable leadership of Paul Manafort and the incredible talents as a candidate and a communicator of Donald Trump, I think they will have. The establishment plans to steal this anyway. It is these Trojan horse delegates who will be central to the steal. What I suggest, quite frankly, is that each one of them be required to sign a loyalty pledge. It's voluntary, of course, agreeing to stick with Donald Trump, the choice of the voters who elected that delegate.
They should pledge to stand with the popular vote or move to North Korea.
Correct. Now, there's no, you're not forced to sign, but if you won't sign, it will identify for the media who the Quislings are.
That's right. If you're going to steal an election in America and cancel America, you better put your John Hancock on it.
Right. So it exposes the bosses who are subverting the democratic process. Donald Trump is winning these primaries big. This just in. He won Arkansas. Now there is a Cruz-Rubio alliance planning to block Donald Trump in Arkansas from getting his rightful majority. We've seen the strong-arm tactics that were utilized in Colorado. We have seen a rare victory where Donald Trump and the forces loyal to John Kasich teamed together to block Ted Cruz out in Michigan. So two can play this game, and I expect it's going to be hard fought right to the end. We are going to march on Cleveland. Delegations, we're going to ask every Trump delegate to sign the voluntary pledge. Are you with the voters or are you with the bosses? It's only elementary that Trump delegates should vote for Donald Trump and not against his interests.
Let me stop you right there. Paul Manafort, your long-time partner that now basically, according to Politico, runs the campaign. I know you don't want to, brag about it, but hopefully saving the campaign, came out, as you know, on Meet the Press and said, look, they're breaking the rules. They've gone too far. We're going to file complaints. Look, it's one thing if there's a close election, because I've looked at the rules, and then there's a brokered situation. But it's another thing when you just cancel elections altogether and then just have the party insiders tell you that Cruz won everything. For me, we need to get out and educate the public that why do we get rid of Jim Crow and poll taxes? I mean, we have election laws for popular votes. There's public interest here. It's racketeering for the party to say now popular votes don't count. This is unprecedented. And I think that Trump should press this. The problem is, watching mainstream TV, they won't show the full clip. They just show Trump saying it's rigged and then make a joke and say, well, he's just mad he didn't win Colorado. And they don't even tell people now in some of these shows. I know you don't want to bash Fox because you're on there some, but I was watching Fox this morning. They wouldn't even say that there was no vote. So they've reached a new level, and that's the talking point from Cruz, is he's running around saying, it's a democracy. I have the clip, played it last hour. I won Colorado, and Drudge won't report that I won Colorado. What? He reported you stole it. So from your expert understanding and of course, Paul's understanding of this, and he hinted at this on national television, is this not illegal? What's going on? Or is this not a violation of the, quote, rules to just cancel things?
Well, first of all, let me make very, very clear yet again that I have no formal nor informal role in the Donald Trump campaign. Paul Manafort is his own man. He's a skilled professional. I'm proud to say that we're partners for 15 years. I would point out that my other partner, who I hold in very high regard, Charlie Black, a very skilled operative, as shrewd as they come, now working for John Kasich, which is his constitutional right. He's not to be underestimated. He's a very clever guy who knows the rules. But I want to be very clear that Paul Manafort works for Donald Trump, and Donald Trump runs Donald Trump's campaign. I, Alex, am going to be outside the convention hall with you, with some bullhorns, and hopefully with thousands at the Stop the Steal march and rally. Now, this is, to be very clear, a nonviolent, peaceful protest. I was in the 1968 campaign for Richard Nixon. I understand that violence in Cleveland of any kind would be detrimental to Donald Trump's capability to win.
Sure, you shouldn't have to proviso this. You never said this. They're running fake headlines. How do we counter them lying? Everybody must come to Cleveland. Everybody must go to Denver this Friday to protest at the RNC as well, the big steal.
Yeah, so when they say, why do you want to visit the hotel rooms of delegates? It's very simple. I want them to sign the pledge. I respect if they don't want to sign the pledge. That's their right. But the voters elected them to vote for Donald Trump. That's our democracy. So if the bosses have put them into a Trump seat, Texas, for example, where the delegation does not include a single actual Trump supporter, not one, because George P. Bush and Rick Perry and Ted Cruz have ganged up to ensure that they control the Texas delegation on questions of rules and credentials. That's where the big steal will take place.
Unprecedented. You talked about breaking some of the biggest news ever today. I put it out on Twitter. Roger Stone, the man that the Republicans establishment wants arrested, is going to break some of the biggest news ever on the broadcast. I know that you're launching TrumpBallotSecurity.org. Tell us about TrumpBallotSecurity.org. We're going to tweet that out and some of the other plans. And then you always know weeks and months ahead of time what's going to happen. Tell us the next shoe to drop.
Well, here, Alex, is the breaking news before we talk about some of the important projects that will help Donald Trump. Ted Cruz has continually given the impression that he has some kind of inside track with the Rubio delegates. As you know, Marco Rubio requested that his delegates not be released. He has in excess of 100 delegates. Those delegates are obviously going to play a very large role, as well as the 230 delegates who are unpledged. This is where I think all sides will be wooing those delegates. They're going to be hearing from Donald Trump Jr., I imagine. They'll hear from Ivanka. Some of them may hear directly from Donald Trump. The Trump family is Donald Trump's greatest asset. They have a special tonight with Anderson Cooper, where you'll be able to see the Trump family in an interview, I believe it is. So it is an important part of this strategy to focus on those very delegates. Now, Ted Cruz has maintained that he somehow has an inside track on those delegates, that those delegates would never vote for Donald Trump. I can tell you definitively that Senator Rubio did not ask for the non-release of those delegates as a favor to Ted Cruz, that those delegates, based on a survey of them that has been done by experienced people, indicates that they're loyal to Senator Marco Rubio. They have no great high regard for Ted Cruz. They're not Trump supporters, but they are also not Trump supporters. So the idea that Rubio has a corner here is a falsehood that his agents continue to spread. I don't know where these important votes will ultimately end up. I was encouraged to see that the senators decided to hold his delegation. He did not receive the endorsement of Jeb Bush. There is bad blood between Marco and Bush because he had the audacity to pursue his constitutional right to run for office. You know, Alex, as Teddy Roosevelt said, the credit belongs to the man who gets in the arena, not the man who stands on the side and points out where the strong man stumbles. I give Marco credit for just running the gauntlet, for trying. He wasn't successful, but he at least deserves our respect for the effort.
So some of the big breaking news here is, and I know you've been in these meetings the last few days, I mean, you've been eyes on the ball in person, if I can go that far, that Rubio is not pledged to Cruz, Cruz is lying, and that Rubio's huge amount of delegates are up for grabs. And hey, Donald Trump and his crew and Paul Manafort and others have a lot of tricks up their sleeves that aren't dirty, but are going to be able to block some of the establishment punches being thrown at this free and open election that if this was a normal election, Trump would already be obviously the nominee and people would be getting behind him. But the Republicans have said, the head of the Republican Party in Colorado has said in a tweet, I'm ready to burn down the party. Let's do it. I mean, for me, this is just incredible that these individuals are clearly operatives wanting to make a one-party system and basically globalize things. They've already moved on, wanting jobs at the UN or jobs at the IMF or World Bank. And these people are just open traitors. I think this is sedition. This is private parties working together to create an oligarchy. And I don't say this for rhetoric. You're the one they're wanting to arrest for saying we should, you know, exercise our First Amendment and demonstrate. I think this is criminal. I mean, this is an attempt to take the country over. This is a racketeering. This makes Jim Crow look like a blessing. I mean, I know that I don't have rhetoric strong enough is what I'm saying, Roger, to describe the climate these people have entered into. I mean, what can we really say about Ted Cruz? I liked Ted Cruz 6 months ago, but this guy is just a monster. Phyllis Schlafly, I mean, it just goes on and on. And his Skype just paused. We'll get him to load back up here in just a moment. I mean, people, this is crazy. And then Cruz going out with these talking points that he won, and why is Trump mad? And then he won't say it's because they stole the election. You know, and not just Colorado. Now they're announcing 4 other states. It's in the Washington Post. Oh, that's just the new thing. We just, we don't have votes. We're getting to Skype reconnected. And look, it's crazy. Matt Drudge is being attacked because he links to the local paper, the Denver Post, saying that the election was canceled in the state and voters don't get to vote. I mean, how is Matt Drudge not supposed to link to that? That's sensational news. That's a seismic event in American politics. Your Skype's back, sir. At least it looks like it's somewhat stabilizing. We may have to go to phone. Roger, can you hear me?
Yeah, we're having some distortion here. I think the NSA is probably monitoring this.
Oh, you think they might be messing with the election? I think that's probably the case. But seriously, Roger Stone, we're going to break here in a moment. What would you call this? Because I think it's a criminal takeover. I think it's unprecedented what they're doing. The spin machine, the deception level, where Cruz is saying it's a democracy. I got the popular vote. We have the clip in Colorado. I mean, this is a new level of lying.
Well, also, let's realize that there are some interpretations of the law that indicate that because this is a race for party office and not public office, that actual buying of delegates for cash would not necessarily be illegal. Now, in the 30s and 40s, this was very common. I've not heard of anything like this in recent conventions, but I put nothing behind the oil and gas interests who are funding Ted Cruz's campaign. This guy is a wholly owned subsidiary of the energy industry with a Bush lineage. And when I've exposed his key role in the election and the policies of George W. Bush and his wife's ties to the CFR Goldman Sachs and the insiders, and Matt Drudge chooses to put them up, he goes out of his mind.
He just loves America. He's not perfect. He doesn't want to screw us over under globalism and have Chinese 35% tariffs. That's why we got to get behind Trump. The whole system we say we hate is melting down, pulling out the stops, canceling elections. 800-259-9231. 800-259-9231 is the number to join us. And we're also going to give you those websites again so you can get involved and stop the steal. TrumpBallotSecurity.org. We're going to talk about that in a moment. Phyllis Schlafly having the Cruz stoats and ferrets and rats and weasels get into her operation, trying to take it over yesterday. I mean, that's in WorldNet Daily. Corsi talked to her. My board plotted to fire me over Trump. I mean, folks, they're getting us thrown off radio stations over this, even though the station managers like Trump. We're getting good ratings. They are moving for the takeover and to create a one-party system. This is it. And Trump is just a manifestation of how they're going to counter populism. Briefly, you need to understand the Bushes. People have read this book that are experts on the Bushes, other authors, and it's a new level. Jeb Bush and the Bush crime family, the inside story of American dynasty, Roger Stone, and St. John Hunt, and a forward by Congressman John LeBoutelier, if I'm pronouncing that right. The point is that I've read it. It's over the top powerful to understand the whole power structure and the Clintons' war on women. New national polls out show Trump in a dead heat with Hillary or ahead of her. He brings this out, it's over. So both these books available, InfoWarsStore.com, and your purchase supports the broadcast. We still haven't covered a laundry list, the Phyllis Schlafly attack, other dirty tricks, what's coming next. And then I want to also get into some calls and call for people again to get ready, to get your apartment rented or whatever, or a nearby town. Be in Cleveland. Book it now. Commit. This is history. I'm going to be there. Roger Stone.
Well, Alex, first I really must address the question of those advocating that I be either arrested or banned from the convention. So the establishment wants to take away my right of free speech, my constitutional right of free assembly and free association. On the basis of what evidence? I never called for violence. If CNN and Megyn Kelly were honest, they would play the very next sentence in which I talk about the importance of a dialogue with the delegates. But of course, they don't do that. So it's something you would expect from the Nazis. First, we're banning people, then we're banning books, then we're banning movies. Next, you know, we're burning books. This is a very slippery slope.
Then we're burning people.
It's entirely anti-free speech. Look, I, above all, know that any violence in Cleveland is detrimental to my ultimate goal, the election of Donald Trump and the takedown.
But it's been the Soros and the Democrats and the Republican operatives attacking Trump rallies. We're not the ones that are violent.
Exactly. So I think it's important that we touch on that. Look, Alex, I think you really expressed the importance, and that is the March on Cleveland. Details to come, the march and rally. You can go to stopthesteal.org. This will be information central on all the details. We are seeking to raise enough money to run buses from all over the United States. We are in negotiations with a couple of colleges that are out of session for dormitory space. We're trying to access some other inexpensive housing for the marshals, for the organizers. We've had tremendous reception from the Trump supporters in Ohio and Pennsylvania and Delaware. They're already committed to carloads of bodies. So as I've said previously, whether you have to walk, hitchhike, bus, take a train, or if you can afford to fly, come to Cleveland. It's important that we...
And you are a guy that gets results. You stopped Reagan getting robbed with your partner, Paul, now heading up the campaign at many levels. You helped stop Al Gore getting in. You could say Bush stole it, and you turned against Bush later because he's corrupt. They're both corrupt, whatever. The point is, you know what you're doing. You've got a real battle plan. This is the place people need to put their time, their energy, and their money. Commit now. You're going to Cleveland, folks. It's a march on tyranny. It's a march against the people that want to steal this country. It's a march on the state apparatus, the would-be Republican Party Politburo.
And again, I say, if you're coming and you're a Trump supporter, the Soros-funded agents provocateur, the agit prop, the demonstrators with the faux protest, who are sometimes wearing Bernie Sanders T-shirts but aren't Bernie supporters. They are going to try to incite violence.
And we're going to digital photo them and do a Google image scan. We always blow their cover. This will backfire.
Yes, and it's essential that you ignore their taunts. They want violence, so they can blame it on us. Ignore them. Find your delegates. Ask them respectfully to sign the pledge. If you were elected as a Trump delegate, you should be required to vote for Donald Trump. If you're not required by the rules, you should be required by your own conscience and the fact that you represent the voters.
You are so extreme to say that we should demonstrate on behalf of voting rights. You're probably one of those guys that wanted black people to be able to vote. I mean, you know, how dare you?
We have to stop what is, in fact, the hijacking of the Republican Party. Now, again, the best news today is not that Cruz claimed the Rubio delegates. Not that Ted Cruz claimed the endorsement of Marco Rubio or the formal support of his delegates, but what he's spinning is that he has the majority of them, and that is not accurate. I think those delegates are loyal to Marco Rubio, and there's many fine people in that delegation. So let's see, you know, when we get to Cleveland. But this is typical of Cruz. This is why, of course, Donald calls him Lyin' Ted. He continues to lie about me on Fox, on CNN, claiming that I planted the National Enquirer stories. Sadly, those outlets, Fox gave me an opportunity to respond, but CNN has never allowed me to respond. So he can attack me, but I can't respond. Fortunately, I can come here to InfoWars.com and reach 4 times as many people as that would see me on MSNBC. So I'm blessed. I'm really blessed.
Well, that's another question. This moment in media where the Republican Democratic Party leadership's together, where the big channels are merging, where Obama's now on Fox News, Hillary's now great on Fox News, all this craziness is going on, all the system's powers against it. MSNBC's biggest shows have like 300, 400,000 viewers. They're a joke. They're lying, thinking they're in a vacuum, and no one knows they're lying, but everyone knows. In your next breath, you said, go to Cleveland, go knock on their doors, talk to the delegates, and try to get them to follow their pledge, but don't be violent. Everyone knows they're lying. Don't they understand that? And now they're announcing billionaires with a bigger double down against Trump with ads. I mean, I've never seen them throw all their power against somebody. What about the arrogance of the media? Do they realize how bad they're damaging themselves?
You know, I think they will do anything to stop an outsider. The entire establishment fear, and this includes the multinational corporation-owned media, the Washington insiders, particularly the lobbyists who work for the donor class. That's exactly who the plotters are here. And they're petrified by the idea of a nationalist who opposes their international trade deals that get them cheap labor and make our streets unsafe. Who opposes their fiscal hokey-pokery, in which we're broke and they're always cooking the books. We go deeper and deeper in debt. Trump is a believer in American sovereignty. He's not for the global game plan.
And that's his sin.
And that is his sin. And they will stop at nothing. I mean, in all honesty, Alex, California is the big enchilada. California could be as important to the nomination of Donald Trump as it was to the nomination of Barry Goldwater, the last outsider they nominated for president.
Is the establishment crazy enough to change some rule and try to cancel that election?
Well, I would say this. I think California will go forward, but this is one of the most expensive states in the nation to compete. The corporately funded Ted Cruz super PACs will funnel 25, 30 million in. He is actively on the ground. But you also see a major push from John Kasich. Again, I am one, disagreeing with Donald Trump, who thinks that it is beneficial to have the opposition to Trump split. John Kasich has every right to stay in this race. He got in the arena. He worked very hard. He won some delegates. Is better than Mitt Romney, who is in the dressing room all made up right now in the bullpen, looking for a way to get in,
sure,
and praying that the party bosses call him at the 11th hour.
Sure. I want to play a clip, though, and then I want to talk about some of those issues. The dirty trickster, the real dirty trickster, Rick Taylor, who got kicked off the campaign for the stuff he was playing, is still on the campaign, obviously. He's gone on these programs, CNN, MSNBC, you name it, and basically called for your arrest, called for your indictment. So I want new listeners to know, Mr. Stone wasn't just saying that a moment ago. This is really going on. Let's play part of that clip.
What concerns me is Paul Manafort, of course, was a business partner with Roger Stone. And Roger Stone just threatened delegates attending the convention in Cleveland, saying that he would publicize delegates' hotel rooms and hotel room numbers if the Trump campaign felt like they were part of stealing delegates from Donald Trump. Now, he said that after he called on Trump supporters to come to Cleveland and somehow protest the process if Donald Trump were denied the nomination. I think that is dangerous. We are a free society in America. We're not a third world country. We don't threaten violence against delegates, and I think that Reince Priebus and the RNC should move to ban Roger Stone from the convention, because we cannot tolerate threats and threats of violence in the process. Additionally, Donald Trump should repudiate those his remarks.
And then he goes on in other statements to say, again, there should be a criminal investigation for intimidation, all the rest of it, and that's in the Washington Post as well. Notice he says it's like a third world country that you'd want to protest to not have the elections canceled or the delegates taken or the popular vote taken. The third world thing is what Cruz is doing. I played it last hour because of time. I'm not going to play it. But did you see all the clips of Cruz, Roger, running around saying he won the Democratic vote in Colorado and that you won't talk about it and Trump won't, and Drudge is lying and won't show that he won? I mean, that is a total inversion of reality.
Yeah, there's only one thing that Weiler guy was right about when he said we're a free society, and therefore we have the right to peaceful protest. We have the right to mass in Cleveland. We have the right to find individual delegates and ask them to take the pledge. That if you were elected as a Trump delegate, you'll stick with Trump on every ballot, and you'll stick with Trump on all important questions. This is how they intend to hijack this nomination. So it is the foaming of the mouth of the establishment, not us. We have said from the beginning that our protest will be peaceful. Meanwhile, as you know, over at the Trump Ballot Security Project, we continue to collect affidavits from voters in states like Texas and Kansas and Oklahoma and Utah particularly. We're prepared to collect affidavits in California or Pennsylvania that prove an inordinate number of irregularities and a pattern of fraud. Now, the Trump forces may or may not, or any individual Trump delegate may or may not choose to challenge the seating of those delegates based on election fraud. This is historically precisely what the Eisenhower people did to Senator Robert Taft in 1952. Taft arrived in Chicago with 1,237 votes. The Texas and Louisiana delegates were unseated based on a case that Eisenhower supporters had not been allowed to vote in the caucuses, a case that doesn't need to be proven in a court of law because the Republican convention is governed by its own rules and bodies. So this is a potential real problem for the Cruz campaign. And if you want to support this important work, you can go to the new website for the Trump Ballot Security Project, which these guys can supply for you.
Wonderful. We're going to break, and I want to come back and take a few calls. But you sent me a text this morning. You were really upset about the Phyllis Schlafly Eagle Forum founder. The Cruz people, I guess their operatives in Eagle Forum tried to take it over, and she said that she was told because she supports Trump. I mean, this is unprecedented activity of basically espionage.
Well, it's worse than that. It is the mugging of a 90-year-old woman, a conservative icon, somebody there at the birth of the conservative movement. It's a hijacking by a gang of goons, and as will be proven very shortly, this plot to get Phyllis reaches all the way to the top levels of the Cruz campaign.
Oh my gosh, that is huge breaking news. Stay there. Oh my gosh. Roger Stone, he literally, I'm not kidding. This guy, everything he says turns out to be true, and everything he says is like the most gold inside baseball stuff. StoneZone.com. I'm Alex Jones with InfoWars.com. University bans golf team from using Trump course, cites social justice. Catholic University has banned its teams from ever playing on the courses. I mean, this is economic warfare, folks. This is all these foreign interest in groups, from the Communist Chinese to the Pope attacking our election process. This is globalism. America ganged up on, being taken over by traitors. And I just got to tell you, Cruz is now right up there with Hillary Clinton as an enemy of the Republic. I'm sorry, I'll just say it. I don't like doing that. And I know I got a lot of listeners that are into Cruz, not many, but some, and it's sick. Getting back to Roger Stone, please flesh that out for a minute or two, then we're going to call, sir. I got Dr. Corsi on Skype. He's going, hey, that's my headline for tomorrow. That's big. Yeah, we're all over this. This is the type of thing that can capture the public's understanding of Cruz, that if he's behind his campaign, a takeover of bank accounts and a patriot organization, Phyllis Schlafly, from within, that if it's being investigated, I think could be criminal. She defeated the coup. Wow, this is amazing. Roger Stone, tell us the intel. I know you can't tell us specifics yet because you're working on that. I mean, you have the facts, but this is going to be a big story. Tell us what you know.
Well, I want to leave it at this. This reaches all the way to the top of the Ted Cruz campaign, and it's not surprising. We've seen these tactics from the Cruz bots before. Who can forget the way they planted a story on CNN that Dr. Ben Carson was getting out of the race, and then they contacted a pre-identified list of Carson voters, thousands of them, and told them, CNN just reported Ben Carson's getting out. Don't throw away your vote. Vote for Ted Cruz. Now, when they got caught, Ted Cruz reminded me of Dick Nixon. He was out there saying, well, I knew nothing about this. No, he knew everything about it. And the robocalls into South Carolina saying Donald Trump supports the gay and lesbian agenda. And the robocalls into South Carolina telling pro-life voters that Donald Trump and his wife supported abortion on demand. So he complains about dirty tricks. He whines about dirty tricks. But he's the master of dirty tricks. This is why I call him Tricky Ted. He's not what he says he is, folks. He is a Bush family retainer, largely responsible for the election of George Bush. He wrote the legal arguments for Bush v. Gore. He recruited John Roberts to that legal team and pushed him for the Supreme Court, where he approved Obamacare. That's the real Ted Cruz.
All right.
Republican.
Let's go to a call before we go to break. Al in Illinois. This is Colorado Delegate Vote Fraud Committee. Al, you're on the air. Quick question or comment for Roger Stone.
Hey, how's it going? Roger Stone, I just wanted to know, because of this Colorado incident where they set it up so it's rigged with no voters allowed, how many more states are coming up? And then I also have a YouTube video that most people have not caught on to, but it does have a ton of YouTube videos. The name of the YouTube video, if you want to search it on YouTube, is Colorado Trump Delegate Removed and Replaced. And he basically goes on record. He does a Facebook mentions in his video, or a YouTube video. I'm not really sure how he did it. But he's basically saying that he waited in line for hours to vote for Donald Trump.
Yes, I've seen the video. We should do a story on it. They've had thousands of these calls. They take the real delegates, replace them with operatives. Powerful info. Roger, that's what you're talking about. This is crazy.
Yeah, this is part and parcel of the kind of Gestapo tactics that Paul Manafort spoke about on Meet the Press. What they're doing to Phyllis Schlafly, another example.
It's incredible. Stay there. I mean, imagine what he'd do as president. This is unbelievable. Crystal in North Carolina. You're on the air with Roger Stone. Go ahead.
Hey, Roger. Hey, Alex. I had a question for you guys. What about these supporters who cannot make it out to the convention? What can we do here at home to help support you guys out in the field?
Tell everybody else to go there, donate money. Be involved, call and talk radio, send out our news articles. Just get aggressive because you're being robbed, you're being attacked. It's like a mugger's attacking you. You got to get pissed and just engage and run their butt over. I'm sorry. Roger, go ahead.
If you can't make it to Cleveland, that's fine. Send us $10. Send us $25, $35, $50, whatever you can afford. I want to run buses, air-conditioned buses from major centers across the country, certainly across the Midwest. The more money we raise, the more buses we can get. People need someplace to bunk. We're looking for low-cost housing.
This is a war. This is a war. It costs money. Commit or lose everything. They're going to rob you of everything, folks, unless you commit.
We want to buy internet ads telling people where they need to be. We want to build the largest outdoor rally in Cleveland history.
And notice how scared the mainstream media is. They know there's millions of Trump supporters in that area. They are scared.
The response from the local Trump supporters in northeastern Ohio, has been amazing. But I know people who are coming all the way from Florida. I know people who are coming all the way from Utah. This is going to be the place to be. We've invited Pat Buchanan to speak. We will invite Ron Paul at least to speak about the question of the tactics of the steal. He's not a Trump supporter, but he has been a victim of this same kind of establishment.
Yeah, I love Ron Paul, but he should speak out against the theft because it happened to him. This is even bigger, though.
And as you know, Trump has called for the audit of the Fed, which I think libertarian voters need to recognize that, unfortunately, Ted Cruz missed that vote because his puppet masters wouldn't let him vote for it. They like the Fed just as it is.
Let's take another call. Let's go ahead and go to Eve in Texas. Eve, you're on the air. Real quick question. Thank you.
Hello, Alex and Roger. I have a question to both of you. If Donald Trump, and I am a Trump supporter, if Donald Trump is not the nominee and they decide to go with Ted Cruz, and if Ted Cruz wins the presidency, do you all think that they will choose Jeb Bush to run as VP, and then we would have a short-term presidency?
I think that Jeb gave a very interesting review to Politico just before he dropped out of the race, in which he mused that he could actually get nominated without winning a certain primary state. In other words, he blurted out the truth. This is why I'm asking people to read Jeb and the Bush crime family. Remember when Neil Bush was moved into a crucial position in Ted Cruz's campaign? Neil Bush being George W. Bush's brother, a man whose defrauding of an SNL cost U.S. taxpayers $1.5 billion. But because he's a child of privilege and a member of the Bush crime family, he spent not a day in jail.
Sure. Well, also in closing, Roger, what about Paul Ryan? They admit, you said is getting ready to run. When he says he's not, it means he is. Meeting with donors, having secret meetings. He's suiting up.
Yeah, I think that there's no question. He's going about this the same way he went about his campaign to be speaker, by first acting like Caesar and saying, I don't want it, I'm not interested. Obviously, he would take it if it were available. Mitt Romney is irked that he didn't run. Remember, he didn't run this year because he was convinced that Jeb's nomination was inevitable.
Roger, incredible info. Thanks for all the breaking news. Thanks for your courage. TrumpBallotSecurity.org, StopTheSteal.org. Please stay in contact. Thank you for your daily updates you send me. God bless you. He's talking to my writers. The guy's working so hard, folks. Thank you so much. You're a tiger. God bless you. We'll be back with Jerome Corsi. I mean, just because you've been in the establishment doesn't mean you're bad overall. But Ted Cruz, who I really liked in the Senate and work he did, I think he's a very eloquent, smart guy, he's flipped a switch the last few months where, I mean, it's like Bill Clinton's up there on steroids. He's worse than Obama or Hillary. I mean, he goes, I played the clips in the first hour. He said, it's a democracy. I won the vote in Colorado, and Matt Drudge is a operative, is the quote, of Trump and gets his orders from Roger Stone. I happen to know for a fact Stone and him aren't even talking. I mean, it's a story when the Republicans start canceling state elections and just have the super delegates ignore the delegates. The delegates are coming out saying they were for Trump, and they were just switched out. Then they had a vote of that. This is the suspension of our election. And they're doing it to Bernie Sanders, too. But Trump's way ahead of Sanders in his lead. His lead's much bigger over Cruz than Sanders over Hillary, but they're stealing it there, too. Both parties are openly merging against the populist movement. And then I played the clip of Cruz on the radio going, yeah, it's crazy. Drudge just does all this horrible stuff. And when I win states like Colorado, he won't even report that I won the votes. And Drudge reported that there weren't votes and said no election, no voters needed. So we've hit a new level. Obama says 2 + 2 = 5. He says you didn't build your business. I mean, I thought that was the top. That Obamacare is free and then you can keep your doctor. I thought it couldn't go any further. And Ted Cruz is like uncloaked. And it's weird when you've liked somebody before, because I never liked Bill Clinton or Hillary. I always disliked them. So now I'm just revile them. But it's weird that I actually hoped Ted Cruz was real. We interviewed him when he was running for Senate in Texas. Didn't mind he was a guy from Canada or whatever. At least he claimed he was conservative. I tried to ignore the Bush connections. And man, I feel like I got chumped. And it's a weird, creepy feeling now. I'm like scared of Ted Cruz. Not like, oh, I'm afraid he's going to get me. I'm like scared for the country. I feel really betrayed. I feel really dirty. I feel like a failure. I've never felt like this because I've never supported somebody that turned out to be pure evil. I've seen folks make mistakes or not be perfect. I'm completely freaked out right now. And we got open world government being announced, the socialist communist pope telling us what to do, Catholic churches saying, you know, and schools saying you can't be on Trump golf courses, Drudge being demonized, Phyllis Schlafly, he broke it. It's now all over mainstream news, but WorldNet Daily, WND.com, Dr. Jerome Corsi broke the news. Phyllis Schlafly, my board plotted to fire me over Trump, tried to take the bank accounts, tried to vote with a coup d'etat, even though the rules, the corporation said they couldn't. And she stopped them. The bank stopped them. And they said, no, this is improper. And now you heard Stone. And Stone wouldn't say this. Everything that guy said has turned out to be accurate. Man, I read him 10 years ago on JFK book he was writing. Didn't realize how big a Politico he was. Man, I knew he had been. But I tell you, he says it's coming out soon. He told us a little bit more, but I'm not allowed to talk about it. That specifically, this is from the campaign that they were running the attempted takeover of the oldest true conservative organization in America that is the proto-progenitor of the libertarian Tea Party Republican movement that both the Democrat and Republican establishment hate. Now, we've got Dr. Jerome Corsi, who is really known for banking and business and hostage negotiations. He's also better known by the public, but that's what he really does for, what, 2, 3, 4 number one New York Times best-selling books that have game-changed 2 elections at least. And he joins us until 45 after that. I'm going to hit other news, and then we've got a guest host coming on to host things, David Knight, in the 4th hour today. Jerome Corsi, WND.com, Twitter.com/Jerome_Corsi, PhD from Harvard University, Political Science 72. Currently senior staff reporter, WorldNetDaily.com, where he works as investigative reporter. He's also an expert on political violence and terrorism and jihadist. In 1981, he received a top-secret clearance from the Agency for International Development, where he assisted in providing anti-terrorism training to embassy personnel. For 25 years, beginning in 81, Corsi developed and worked with banks throughout the United States and around the world to develop financial services marketing companies who assist banks in establishing broker-dealers and insurance subsidiaries to provide financial planning products and services to their retail customers. That's why he knows Donald Trump for 40-plus years. He is a noted financial services speaker. That's where he's the big rock star, folks, is banking and what's happening. Published 3 books and numerous articles in professional financial services journals and magazines. And he's the guy that last time connected the dots where all these other insiders had told me years ago, no, Trump's a patriot. He knows what's going on. He's a nationalist. What do you think of Donald Trump? And I'm just like, Donald Trump, you know, the real estate guy? And he told us last time, no, Trump knows as much as we do or more, Alex. He's a patriot, a nationalist. It's why they hate him. And clearly they do. This isn't some shell op to make us think they hate him, so we go for him. They're stealing it openly. So do we start with Schlafly, Phyllis Schlafly, Eagle Forum? Do we start with the big steal? Do we start with the IMF admitting the world's going into a depression? I mean, there's so many time bombs here. The Russians pulled out. Saudi Arabia and the jihadis attacked again. Now the Russians have had to go back in because Aleppo has got 100,000 ISIS people attacking it. I mean, the world is teetering on the edge, in my view. Dr. Corsi, what do you want to tackle first? I mean, there's just so much. Am I right in saying that we've probably never been in a point in modern times more dangerous on so many fronts? I mean, what would you call the state of the world right now?
Oh, I agree with you entirely, Alex. I mean, this is a precarious state entirely, not just in politics, but in economics. The world is closer, I think, to a combination of a new depression, which will make the last depression in the 30s look like a picnic, and a new world war, which will make the last world war look like a picnic. I mean, we're at the collapse of the financial systems. This mountain of debt on social welfare cannot sustain. It's going to collapse. It's starting to collapse in Europe. European banks are going to negative interest rates. The European Union is stretched beyond being efficient. The European Union is breaking apart with refugees. It's a complete shambles in terms of the dream of a united Europe. I think in the Middle East, we're closer to war, nuclear war, than we've ever been. I now envision nuclear war, including in the next 20 years within the Middle East. starting a regional nuclear war. I think Iran is pushing towards a nuclear weapon. I would not be surprised to see Israel calculating a preemptive attack on Iran, perhaps even before the election. I mean, this is, I think, the most critical time in world history, and we're on the verge of a major financial collapse and a World War III event. And the globalists would be happy. I mean, you know, kill 5-6 billion people. They're not going to miss them. That's the problem.
I've been interviewing you for probably 14 years, and you've never talked like this grave. And other, even mainline analysts are saying, hit the panic button. And then the politicians, not just here, but all over the Western world, act like they don't care, bring in 5 million, mainly jihadis, put sleeper cells in, fly them in and don't check their IDs. Donald Trump says we should stop this till we check them. There's a war on common sense. What's happening? Because I always thought the leftists were run by big, you know, combines, which they are, and that they didn't believe their ideology, that it was just a way to hamstring young people and turn them into jellyfish and dependents. But now I go back to what you would say 14 years ago or others. No, Alex, they really believe it. They really want to take over and screw everything up to build their utopia. And so now I realize we really have power-mad pseudo-communists run by weirdo war criminals like George Soros going completely insane. I mean, it's crazy. I don't think they even know what they're doing now. It's just they just hate freedom, hate free market, hate Christians, hate America, and just want to screw everything up. I mean, what do we do?
Well, I mean, first, the left and the right, I think we're right back to where we were in the 1930s, that the communists want to have state control. They want to have state control of all private property, but they want social welfare system. They want a totalitarian government. I've said for the beginning that the Nazis, which in a sense I think we've adopted the fascist ideology, we've become state-controlled business, but also with a strong social welfare system. You make a mistake to think that the left and the right don't agree on government spending. Paul Ryan would be happy to spend the United States into oblivion. He's not going to stop spending in social welfare, doesn't want small government. And we're seeing the difference, I think, from the 30s is in the 30s, the United States was more of a capitalist country. We had more individual freedom, and we still had a God-fearing society.
We were less domesticated.
And today that's gone. We've lost a lot of the religious basis of America. This is what's so tragic about Phyllis Schlafly. And the political parties are acting as if they're completely an elite who have the right to control everything. I mean, the GOP and the Democrats alike are saying, you know, this would be a good party, a good political party, the GOP or the Democratic Party, except for the voters. That's the one they can't stand voters.
Do they really believe their spin that they count and voters don't, and they're really drinking their own Kool-Aid? Because are we seeing true megalomania here, Dr. Corsi?
Yes, they really believe it. They believe that they know the best for everybody. Karl Rove and Paul Ryan and the few who are making millions in Washington, you know, the gravy train of the consultants and the all the special interests don't want to give up their power, don't want to give up their money, either in the GOP or in the Democratic Party. There's a fundamental agreement in Washington, keep the power in Washington, and the rest of the country, forget it, put them on welfare. If they're not useful, they can be eliminated in the next global war, it doesn't matter. Got 90 million people in the United States that the economy doesn't need anymore to work. What are you going to do with these 90 million? What when the 90 million get to be 120 million? You know, do you think the GOP or the Democrats have a plan for that? No, they don't.
They need a way to deal with the baby boomers. And you show your sophistication as a top financial analyst for the biggest corporations out there and a guy that's worked in all sorts of, you know, highest level ops. The elite literally look at it like a ballot sheet and look at all these excess people and want to get rid of them. And that's why they're pushing war, famine, and globalism. That's Agenda 21 that you've written books on, been in films on. This is really where they flipped out and believe collapse and austerity and war is going to cleanse the earth. And it's really just an excuse for them to have total power and control.
Right. Well, the globalists never want to eliminate themselves. I mean, that's always the irony of it. But everybody else is worthless to them. There's no fundamental respect for human life or human beings. And, you know, you're seeing right now in the Republican Party, Ted Cruz someday is going to wake up and realize he's just being used. Karl Rove, they have no intention, the GOP establishment, of allowing Ted Cruz to be the candidate.
They've got Ryan and Kasich and all of them suiting up.
Jeb Bush, the whole bunch of them. I mean, though, they're likely to pick a Jeb Bush, Ryan, or, run Mitt Romney and Ryan again. They don't really care. The GOP does not mind losing the presidency to Hillary Clinton. I've said this repeatedly. They're happy with the Clinton presidency. They're happy with an Obama.
We can't survive that.
Well, it's a nice pact because everybody, remains fat and happy in Washington, and the people get told in an election what they want to hear. Tea Party sends conservatives, they think, to Washington.
Won't Hillary go for it all? I mean, that's what the criminology shows. If she gets in, people think she's dangerous now. My God.
Oh, well, I mean, the Clintons are going to take the Clinton Foundation scam to the billion-dollar level. They've already had the hundreds of millions. Now they're going to start selling government favors for billions of dollars. I mean, we might as well become like Argentina. We're going to become a banana republic. Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton and the elite will get rich. They'll fly around their jet airplanes. They'll go to their Lolita Islands. They'll have all their sex affairs. They'll have all the drugs they want. And everybody else will be losing their pension money, struggling desperately to work, not able to afford a house.
And here's their problem, though. They think the military and the police don't know now. They're actually woken up big time and aren't going to go along with this while they fly around in jet set while we kill each other in the streets.
Well, and the problem is, too, I mean, look at the border. The Border Patrol is already saying, this is insane. The Border Patrol is not being permitted to do their job. And, the economic structure is not going to support this. We're already at the point where the social welfare systems, the debt levels in the United States and in Europe and around the world are at such extreme levels that these debt-ridden societies are going to collapse.
Dr. Corsi, I want, when we come back from break, to really focus in on the economy. The IMF, they're all saying what you said 5 years ago, a month ago. We're now approaching the big event that Ron Paul and you have talked about. But shifting gears into Phyllis Schlafly to kind of show a zoomed-in micro of what's happening. You heard Stone earlier. In my experience, he doesn't make stuff up. It just keeps coming true. He says he has the sources. It's confirmed to the highest levels that they attempted to take her organization over that is very influential, very powerful, very successful, with a huge list and a bunch of money, and to flip it into Cruz. If he has the goods and this comes out, this could be devastating, mugging an old lady.
Well, I'll be right. I'm going to be working on this all afternoon. It'll be my lead story tomorrow. I'm going to start off with what Roger Stone just said on your program, that it's orchestrated at the highest levels of the Cruz campaign. I mean, there's literally millions of dollars. I'm not even sure how much in the endowments of Ego Forum that this renegade group, all of which have pledged to Cruz, every one of these 6 women who are in the renegade board group have pledged their support to Cruz. If they can control Ego Forum and depose Phyllis Schlafly, they can change the mission of the society. They can grab all the money that's there, and they're not going to succeed.
Isn't this a bellwether of the thuggery, the spirit of theft going on? I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir.
Well, you're exactly right. I mean, it's appalling to me. I mean, here is a woman who is one of the most respected conservatives in America, who I've known for decades, and who has fundamentally, fought to preserve the values of family, God, religion, and our culture, to, have conservative values, small government. And she has brought these women into politics.
She's the real feminist.
Yes, she truly is, because she, has always championed women, but championed women with dignity and respect and honoring, the woman's ability to procreate, bring children into the world. These are fundamental values that Phyllis has elevated. These women were brought into would be nothing if it hadn't been for Phyllis Schlafly. And now even one of them, her daughter, is in this group trying to take over the organization. I quoted yesterday, Kathy Adams gave this interview in the Dallas Morning News. She's one of the 6 board members trying to take over Phyllis Schlafly's organization. And basically said that Phyllis supporting Trump was senile. She'd been manipulated, that she was, it was an absolutely appalling interview for a woman who had, to whom Kathy Adams, for 23 years, has been head of Eagle Forum, I believe in California, and here she's turned on her, on Phyllis. I mean, it's disgraceful. Phyllis will not roll over and let this happen.
She's a constitutional lawyer of the highest order. She's got a great group behind her. I think there should be a serious investigation of this.
Well, I think there should too. And I think, you know, again, it's what price people are paying to back Trump, even within the GOP. You know, anybody who's backing Trump is going to get turned on. Certainly the academics.
Buddy, I've never had the pressure I've got on me right now. It's bad. Right. I mean, they're
going to come after anybody who supports Trump to destroy you in the process, or me in the process of, you know, WND and Joseph Farah and everything else to try to, you know, promote Cruz, not so Cruz will win. And this is where the Cruz supporters have to understand they're being used as dupes.
The Republican leadership is in the news admitting that they're going to not have Cruz.
Right. And the rules of the Republican convention are not going to be fair. I think, you know, what Roger Stone is saying, with votes being stolen. I mean, how can you basically have a primary in a state like Colorado and no one votes? You know, the GOP is saying this would be a great party except for the voters. We really don't need the voters. They're a nuisance. And Ted Cruz, who should have said, I don't want to win this way. That would have been the honorable thing. He's so desperate to get, what, 30-some...
Have you heard the clips where he goes and says, I got the vote, it's a democracy, and Drudge won't say that I won Colorado? Drudge is lying? Well, that's inverted reality. That's like crazy town.
And you're seeing now the Ted Cruz, who is the establishment Ted Cruz, who was a product, who was aspiring to be a Bushy, wanted to be an insider. He was an insider for years, working Federal Trade Commission. He wasn't liked enough to be given a post as prestigious as his wife had in the White House. And when Karl Rove would not give Ted Cruz the blessing to be a nominee for the party, that's when Ted Cruz decided he was going to become an evangelist and embrace the Tea Party. And it's all been fundamentally a lie. It isn't, you know, he was for the, I pointed this out.
That's right. He came down to Texas to get his big hat and his cowboy boots and went from being an establishment guy to, I'm the evangelist, I'm the greatest patriot ever, and now he's going back to what he really was.
Right, and this all was an act. That's the problem, is all an act. He fundamentally supported the Trans-Pacific Partnership, wrote with Ryan an article on, you know, in the Wall Street Journal to give it the fast-track authority.
Whereas Trump has never been phony. He's a nationalist, right-wing in some areas, liberal in others, but he's real, and that's why they're scared.
Well, and Trump is going to have a fundamental voter realignment. You're going to find that people from the Democratic Party are equally tired of being lied to. I mean, how many years are the African Americans going to vote for Democrats who abuse the African Americans, destroy their families, reduce their economic value? The same way with Hispanics. Democratic Party is going to exploit everybody's votes. And finally, you're going to see a big crossover of workers across America wanting to preserve jobs.
That's already happened. He's got double the black votes. All these Reagan Democrats are coming over blue collar, but they keep saying he can't beat Hillary, but the polls show he will. That's why they're so scared. Dr. Jerome Corsi, WND.com, senior staff writer, investigative journalist. I don't get up here and talk about scary things because, ooh, we're fear porn, like the New York Times says. I've studied history, and let me tell you, I am really concerned. I know I'm right. I said 2 months ago they're going to start canceling caucuses altogether and put articles out. People said, oh, you're full of it, when I had the Republicans leadership saying they were looking at it. Now Ted Cruz and other people have a talking point where they won't even talk about the fact that it was new superdelegates that did this in Colorado and other states. So again, it's just a total con game where they don't even recognize what's going on. Kind of like Gibbs famously said, I was told, you know, don't admit there's a drone program, even though it existed publicly for years. It's like saying, don't admit Times Square exists in New York or Central Park. And you're like, but it's right there. Don't admit that the Atlantic Ocean is there. Like, don't admit death panels are in Obamacare. Don't admit there's a don't treat list of the VA. But it's right there. 28 pages, Saudi involvement, criminal elements of the government standing down. I'm vindicated. I'm not vindicated. The FBI said that at the time. The media then spun what I said about 9/11 to fantastical space beams and stuff that their own operatives put out to discredit it. They said, I said the firemen blew up the towers. No, I didn't. It was the firemen and the police that exposed what happened. It wasn't our government did it, but criminal elements that knew Saudi Arabia was running it. And that's now on 60 Minutes last Sunday. See, the truth will always come out. We're going back to Dr. Corsi in a moment. WND.com to find his books, his writings, his information, WND.com. Also, we've got Hillary for Prison T-shirts that everybody should be wearing because they're trying to censor people, trying to say you can't criticize Hillary, trying to tell comedy places, you know, with their actual campaign threatening them, don't criticize her. We've got to criticize her and call for the FBI to call for her indictment. We have a new limited edition shirt, very similar to the last one, Hillary for Prison 2016 till the end of time on the back, Legalize Freedom, InfoWars.com. And your purchase makes it all possible here. We have our flagship product that's got 175 studies behind it on knowing for regrowing nerves and what it does to the mitochondrial DNA, just the bio-PQQ alone in it. DNA Force is the best nutraceutical we could come up with, and it's just simply amazing. Super Male Vitality, Lung Cleanse. The other products are just the very best concentrated herbs you can imagine on so many fronts, and your purchase, again, makes the entire broadcast possible. So many of the products that were out of stock are back in stock, like Brain Force. It's a true nootropic. Read the reviews. Check out the products from Liver Shield to Deep Cleanse to the different Parasite Cleanse products we have. These are the very best nutraceuticals. When I go to the top labs in the country and say, I want the magic product that your top scientists would want, because most people in nutraceuticals put out some decent stuff, but cheap stuff, have a lot of pills in the bottle, so you think you're getting a good deal, put a bunch of marketing into it, and there's $3 a product in it, and it's 30 bucks. If we're selling something for 30 bucks, there's like $18 a product in it. Nobody we know of does this, okay? These are the very best products. InfoWarsLife.com, InfoWarsStore.com, or call toll-free 888-253-3139. We have free shipping on all orders, $50 and up, and 10% off for everybody that signs up with auto ship, so you don't forget to reorder stuff that's staple. Cancel anytime. Okay, going back to Dr. Corsi of WND.com. Dr. Corsi, finishing up with the election, what you expect to happen and where this is going. Do you think the establishment has miscalculated and is showing their hubris? Do they realize how upset people are? And where do you think all this is going?
Well, I think the establishment is clearly miscalculated. GOP leaders are in fantasy land thinking that they can rig the delegates so that they can throw the convention into chaos. The American people know the difference. American people want voting in Colorado. To have a primary without voting. I mean, by the time you get to that point, you know, the absurdity, the complete moral hollowness, the duplicity of the mainstream media is so obvious. Of course, Drudge is pounding it. And, you know, Drudge and you and Alex, we're all trying to get to this point of saying this is ridiculous. This is not democracy. This is an elite rigging and stealing.
And then Cruz and the media, Fox News, I was watching this morning, acted like that Trump was crazy, but they just showed him saying it's rigged and then wouldn't say it was rigged. They go, hey, Trump, why are you mad? The voters have spoken. I've never seen Fox lie like that. Well,
Fox is also anti-Trump. They're also, you know, supporting Megyn Kelly, who Trump has exposed. Trump has really made it clear that, you know, Fox is increasingly part of the establishment. Look at how many Democratic analysts they have on Fox anymore compared to what they had 10 years ago. I mean, the point is that I think the American people are tired of this. And I think Donald Trump is the real deal. I've known Donald Trump for years. Donald Trump takes his own advice. He has his own thinking. He is truly someone who can negotiate and will be tough. The establishment is afraid of him because he won't follow their rules. They know Ted Cruz will. You know, they put a biscuit in front of Ted Cruz, say, stand, you know, get in your hind legs, you know, put your paws up and bark, and Ted Cruz will be happy to do it. He's doing it right now. I mean, for the idea that he's going to gain 30 delegates in Colorado, he'll sell his soul. He has no more chance of winning, you know, the GOP nomination than Herbert Hoover does.
What do you make of all his operatives going on shows and saying, arrest Roger Stone and don't let people demonstrate in Cleveland? I mean, did I wake up in Romania under Ceausescu?
Well, you know, the operatives, this is one of the other problems in the Cruz campaign, is operatives, including Rick Tyler, who you had on, was discredited and fired. These are the kinds of dirty tricks the Cruz campaign has played. And if it's such an honest and Tea Party and, for the people populist campaign, why are there so many operatives in it that will, do what they did to Ben Carson and continue to do it in Colorado? There's no Ted Cruz should have said, I'm ashamed of what happened in Colorado. I won't take any of those delegates. Vote, and then we'll take the delegates, but do it this way, I won't take them. Ted Cruz is not going to do that. He's going to, scramble after 20 delegates as if it makes any difference. I think you're going to see in New York, you're going to see in Pennsylvania, massive voting for Trump. It's going to backfire. Everything attempted on Trump has backfired, but Trump is in the fight of his life. And Roger Stone knows it. Roger Stone is doing everything he can to alert people to the theft that's going on of the election by the GOP establishment.
Sure.
And what's going to come down the pike is Hillary Clinton is as guilty as any criminal has ever been. And she is going to have to be indicted, or the American people aren't going to tolerate it. I mean, I'll have a book coming out in this summer about it as well. I mean, I'm incensed about the Clinton Foundation.
I've never seen such naked corruption and somebody not get in trouble. No. I mean, the elite are crazy trying to install her when, in a way, it's good because it's going to blow up in their face, but she may just, start war with the Russians. Who knows? Speaking of that, here's
I think everybody should get your Hillary, for prisons T-shirts. These are, you're right on. This is exactly what's going on, is that, the Clinton Foundation is a criminal enterprise. It has stolen hundreds of millions of dollars. It has done it at the expense of poor people, at the expense of people who suffered tragedies like in Haiti or in India, earthquakes.
They're horrible, nasty people, the worst of the worst. Here's Ted Cruz on Trump yesterday calling Colorado voterless win democracy. And then I got a longer clip where he says it 3 times. Drudge won't report I won. Well, no, Drudge is reporting there was no vote. It's insane.
Well, Drudge is reporting what you're reporting. Drudge is seen through the hypocrisy. He's seen through the duplicity, the lie. And he's exposing the lie.
Well, how could he not? They're canceling elections. I mean, look, this shows how morally bankrupt the Republican leadership is. Let's play the short clip. Dr. Jerome Corsi's with us. Here's Ted Cruz.
The latest thing he seized upon is when people vote against him, they're stealing the election. It's a really odd notion. What is this democracy of which you speak?
By the way, our computer malfunctioned and sped that up, but I'm kind of glad it did. It was pretty funny.
It showed a whole new dimension of Ted Cruz that, look, Ted Cruz is going to say anything he can at this point, and he doesn't, he's just going to be used to block Donald Trump. Ted Cruz will never get the nomination. He's a pawn. He's being used as a pawn. He'll be thrown away by the establishment GOP as fast as they use them.
Sure. Do you think they're arrogant enough, like Karl Rove has said on TV, that they are just going to maybe, quote, put a fresh face in with no votes?
Yes, I think it's very possible. And look at the money. Look at the GOP money that's gone to Mark Levin, for instance. They bought something like, they have $400,000 of Mark Levin's book, The Cruz Campaign. People supporting Cruz did. That's all engineered by Karl Rove. Karl Rove knows that he can buy Glenn Beck, he can buy the Mark Levins, he can buy all these pundits to attack.
By the way, I don't want to dislike Mark Levin or Glenn Beck, but man, they are really showing themselves. I mean, it's scary. I'm really ashamed of the conservative movement.
And I'm appalled how, I've done everything I can starting yesterday to support Phyllis, because Phyllis is the kind of person who's really built the conservative movement. And now you've got a set of Cruz operatives who have taken over the organization, want to throw Phyllis out, grab the money, and run it their way. I mean, it's intolerable that, a 91-year-old woman who's built this organization should have to face a coup from the very people whose careers she built by Eagle Forum. None of these women would have done anything in politics if it had not been.
Man, I tell you, Cruz is really treacherous, and I guess he feels like he's got the backing of the establishment now and thinks he's invincible.
Well, Karl Rove and the others will make him feel this way, and they'll play to his ego. But as I said, he is really showing his true colors, who he is. You're fine right below the surface. You've got the guy who was down at the border handing out teddy bears to, supposedly the unaccompanied minors who were flooding across.
Sickening stunts you'd see out of Obama.
Right, and constant hypocrisy from Cruz. That's the part of it as I researched it deeper because, like you, Alex, when he first came on the scene as a senator, we were all inclined to think, hey, this is a Tea Party conservative. The more you look at his background, you find Goldman Sachs all over the place, loans that he didn't disclose. You find the globalism in support of free trade, open borders. This is every bit as much Ted Cruz a globalist as is Karl Rove and the other GOP establishment. He is a Washington insider. That's where his career came from. He is a George W. Bush loyalist. He worked in the Bush recount in Florida, did a lot of the engineering for that, was disliked by the Bush people. Nobody seems to like Ted Cruz. And so he got a job in the FTC, parked in the FTC, where he spent years in Washington as a Washington insider. His wife was put onto the Condi Rice's staff, and she did the Council on Foreign Relations report with Robert Pastor on tour to North American community. That was the architecture for the North American Union.
She is a key super gopher for the ultra top.
And that's exactly what the Cruzes are. If they got into power, which they're not going to get, they're just going to be the spoil Trump movement. And I think that Trump is doing a good job. Roger Stone is fighting every day to expose it. And of course, Roger's going to take a lot of heat from it. He's going to take an enormous amount of grief.
Stone is working, I know for a fact, 18 hours a day. The guy is a maniac. I get texts at 6 a.m. in the morning and at 1 a.m. and phone calls.
And he also knows what he's doing. He goes back in politics decades. He was there.
Barry Goldwater.
He saw the convention. He knew Richard Nixon, worked with Nixon, worked in the Reagan administration. He's been there. He knows what he's talking about. And when Stone says that by the rules, they're going to, in Washington, a few lawyers are going to try to steal the convention, it's something to pay attention to.
Well, he said it 8 months ago, and now it's materializing, but they're doing it now at the state level. In the few minutes we got left, we're going to go on a break, and you're gone in 3 minutes.
Sure.
You're the expert on the economy for folks, a doctor of economics, banking, advised Donald Trump, you name it, involved at the highest levels. Where are we really? What's the next big shooter up? We're talking about corporate defaults, state defaults, the shale oil boom crash in North America, the situation with the Saudis. I mean, it's time bombing. Worried IMF cuts world growth forecast, warns over BRICS exit from EU. They're hitting the panic button saying they're going to zero or negative interest rates. What does all this signify in 2 minutes, Dr. Corsi?
Well, I think, first of all, you're going to see the Federal Reserve, which is, by the way, privately owned, is not a government institution, is going to do everything it can to keep pumping money in to keep the stock market up, at least through the election. They don't want to have the establishment exposed by the crash that we're going to have. The crash is going to start in Europe. It's going to start in the EU. EU is going to begin falling apart. It's flooded with Muslim terrorists. These refugees you're going to see more Brussels attacks, more attacks in France. The Islamic radicals who are coming into Europe are not going to assimilate into the European society. They're going to try to destroy European society. I suspect the EU is going to start breaking up this year, and the financial collapse is going to begin in Europe, begin in Greece. I think Greece and Great Britain could both pull out from the EU this year.
By the way, while you're saying this, there's a giant thunderstorm overhead. It made me get chills up my back. I mean, why? I know the left captured us. The globalists run us. Why do they want to bring 5 million jihadis in to kill us? Why? Why do they hate prosperity and nice stuff?
We're going to have basically a structure where the world economy collapses. And in the collapse, again, remember these crises, they'll have this collapse occurring at the same time the Middle East is moving towards nuclear war.
Ugh.
And the only forces that are going to be able to stop it, I mean, once the United States, we've lost our moral compass, we've lost our economic strength, our military is being dramatically depleted to levels it hasn't been in modern times, and Obama has done this intentionally.
We're run by acolytes of the heirs communist. I mean, what elite would put those people in?
And don't think that the left and right aren't in cooperation with this. At the highest level, the GOP Republicans would be happy to have Hillary Clinton win. And Hillary and her people are stealing the election on the GOP, on the Democratic side, just as Karl Rove and the others are trying to...
So this is really the attempted full takeover by multinationals and crime syndicates. We're seeing it.
Disregarding the middle class, disregarding the average person, throwing God out of the country, and having no hesitation.
Is this really the fall of America if they succeed right now?
Yes, this is the last chapter, unless we have an opportunity to take back the fundamental values of the country. And that's what Donald Trump is fighting for, and it's going to be the fight of his life.
Well, God bless you, Dr. Corsi. Look forward to talking to you a lot more. Godspeed. This is the final chapter in America. This is it. It was George Berkeley that famously said, if a tree falls in the forest and no one is there to hear it make a sound, did it make a sound? Well, I'm here to give you the answer to that age-old question. Yes, it did. And if the American Republic had fallen and no one in the mainstream media told you, would the Republic still be dead? And the answer is yes. In 20-plus years on air, I've never seen a demarcation line that clearly shows to me the full collapse has basically already gone to a point where you can say this country is unrecognizable and we are rapidly accelerating into a nightmare totalitarian system. We've seen Priebus, the head of the Republican Party. We've seen the head of the Rules Committee, Curly Hewlin or whatever his name is, come out and openly say, listen, the media's wrong. You never had a vote. It doesn't count. The party picks whoever's there. You're just here at a fashion contest.
Political parties choose their nominee, not the general public, contrary to popular belief.
Then why bother holding the primaries?
That's a very good question.
Then when myself and Roger Stone and others came out and simply called for people to go protest and demonstrate and talk to the delegates, and we said, and don't be violent, in Cleveland coming up in a few months, they had all their pundits go on TV and say, maybe Roger Stone should be arrested. This is in a climate with all these incredible attacks on free speech, and it's really creepy.
We are a free society in America. We're not a third world country. We don't threaten violence against delegates, and I think that Reince Priebus and the RNC should move to ban Roger Stone from the convention because we cannot tolerate threats and threats of violence.
They're also stealing states and delegates from Bernie Sanders. Ladies and gentlemen, they're telling you that they're allowed to make these rules, but they're taking public taxpayer money by the billions, and the counties and cities are holding out that we're having public elections where it's one person, one vote. There are federal and state election laws, like the 1965 Voting Rights Act, that's meant to block this type of racketeering. Even Jim Crow laws against poor blacks and whites were not this strict or this over the top. And I'll close with the words of President JFK. Those that make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution inevitable. And the power brokers know that, and they want to break our will and push forward and want a civil war in this country. Let's peacefully go out. Let's sue these people. Let's donate to political causes. Let's get involved. Let's have our minds heard. Let's expose these political party machines. Let's do everything we can to stop this illegal, criminal takeover of America by a two-party system establishing an oligarchy or dictatorship in this country. As George Carlin said, it's a big club and you ain't in it.